When I think of the word constant, I think of something that never fades with time, something that doesn't shift, even when everything else does. In a world that changes by the day, where our roles evolve and responsibilities grow heavier, it is easy to feel the rhythm of life pulling us in different directions. Yet, in the midst of all that movement, there are anchors, quiet, steady, unseen perhaps by the world, but deeply felt by the heart. For me, that anchor has always been the bond that endures. The bond that teaches me, time and again, that love does not need to be loud to be strong. There is a kind of grace in constancy. It is not dramatic, not something that demands to be noticed. It exists in the small gestures, the shared glance that speaks without words, the presence that comforts without explanation, the laughter that remains unchanged even as we grow. From childhood to the steps I take now, that quiet thread of understanding has held me upright. It is not only a memory of moments we have lived but a living promise that continues to guide me forward. There were days when the world seemed bigger than I could comprehend, when every step into duty or expectation felt heavy with meaning. And yet, there she was, steady, familiar, always there. We never needed to say much. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in silence, in the knowing that someone stands beside you simply because they choose to. Through shared whispers and smiles that belonged only to us, we built a language no one else could speak, a language of trust, of care, of enduring love. When I think about what truly lasts, it isn't the moments that flash before cameras or the grand gestures seen by many. It is the simple act of showing up, again and again, without condition or hesitation. That is what endurance looks like. That is what it feels like when someone becomes your constant. Not by force or duty, but by heart. There is something profoundly grounding in growing up together, in learning side by side, in facing both laughter and uncertainty with the same pair of hands to hold. We have shared 1,000 unspoken things, dreams, whispered late at night, doubts turned into courage by a single reassuring smile. The passage of time hasn't taken any of that away. It has deepened it. The bond has learned to stretch with us, to grow stronger through the challenges, to become not a chain that binds, but a thread that connects, freely yet faithfully. Constancy, I've learned, is not about remaining the same. It is about remaining true. And in remaining true, one finds strength. The years ahead will ask more of us than we can yet imagine. They will demand patience, resilience, and vision. But I know that no matter how much the world asks of me, I will never walk alone. There will always be someone who remembers the girl I once was, who knows the meaning behind the smallest gestures, who understands not because of what I say, but because of who we have always been together. The endurance of our bond is not made of perfection. It is made of forgiveness, of shared hopes, of the gentle courage to keep understanding each other anew as we both change. That is what makes it so beautiful, its ability to adapt without ever breaking. It has carried me through every uncertain moment, every quiet doubt, reminding me that even in solitude, I am never truly alone. In a world where so many things are fleeting, attention, words, even moments of joy, how rare it is to have something or someone that remains steady. That constancy becomes a reflection of who we are and who we strive to be. It teaches humility because it reminds us that we are supported not by ourselves alone, but by those who love us. It teaches gratitude because it shows that life's most precious gifts are often simple and enduring. The bond we share has shaped my heart's understanding of loyalty. It has shown me that real connection doesn't depend on distance or circumstance. It thrives on trust. There are days when paths may lead us to different places, when duties call us to separate roles, yet the essence of our bond remains untouched. It is there in the laughter we still share, in the quiet moments we still find, in the unshakable belief that we are always walking toward the same horizon. And so, as I step forward into new responsibilities, into new chapters of service and growth, I do so knowing that the foundation beneath me is unbreakable. It is built on years of shared childhood dreams, on the kindness of small gestures, on the strength of silent understanding. It is built on the truth that no matter what titles we may hold, or how much time passes, some things are never outgrown. They simply evolve with us. If constancy could speak, I believe it would say, "You are not alone in this." It would whisper that love, once rooted deeply, does not fade. It endures the seasons. It withstands change, it remains, and in that endurance there is peace, there is courage, there is home. We live in a time that often celebrates what is new, new beginnings, new achievements, new ambitions. But I think there is equal beauty in what stays, in what holds, in what continues quietly even when no one is watching. The enduring bond is not just a relationship between two people. It is a lesson for all of us, to be steady in our care for one another, to remain loyal to what matters most, to find strength not in noise but in presence. There are so many ways to say thank you, but few feel enough for the kind of gratitude I hold. Gratitude for being seen when I doubted myself, for being believed in when I hesitated, for being reminded of who I am when I almost forgot. That gratitude is something I carry with me into every new day, like a quiet heartbeat reminding me of where I come from and who walks beside me. In the years to come, the world will continue to change, and we with it. But I hope that the essence of this bond, this constant, will always remind us to look for what endures, to cherish the people who steady us, to nurture the connections that give our days meaning, and to return that same constancy to others in need of it. For love that endures does not belong to the past or even to the present. It belongs to the future. It is the bridge between who we were and who we are becoming. And as I stand here, I know that no matter where life takes us, that bond will continue to echo quietly in every step we take. Because in the end, constancy is not about holding on too tightly, it is about holding with faith. It is the courage to stand beside someone not because you must, but because you choose to, again and again. And that choice, made with heart, is what makes a bond endure beyond time itself. So to the one who has always been there, thank you for being my reflection in laughter and my strength in silence, for being my reminder that no matter how the world changes, some things remain. You are my constant, and through you, I have learned that the truest form of love is simply to stay. There is a quiet kind of fulfillment that comes from knowing that your path is not yours alone, that every step you take carries not only your own hopes, but the hopes of others, the dreams of those who have walked before you, and the faith of those who look toward you. This understanding, that we are part of something greater than ourselves, is what shapes the meaning of shared purpose. It is not a duty placed upon us, but a calling that lives within us, one that grows stronger when we serve together rather than apart. I have always believed that service begins not in grand gestures, but in small acts of attention. It begins when we listen, to our people, to our family, to the voices that often go unheard. It begins when we understand that leadership is not measured by how much light we stand in, but by how much light we can share. And in this, purpose finds its truest form. It is not something we own, it is something we build with others. When I look at the journey that lies ahead, I do not see it as mine alone. It belongs equally to those who guide me, and to those who will one day continue the work. In every lesson I have learned, about duty, about compassion, about courage, I have felt the presence of shared effort. None of us truly stands alone in service. We are always surrounded by those who strengthen us in silence, who remind us why we began, and who give meaning to what we do. To serve together is to believe in each other's strength. It is to understand that unity is not uniformity. It is harmony built from difference. We do not have to be the same to walk the same path. We simply have to walk with respect, with an open heart, and with the conviction that every person we meet carries a story worth hearing. In this shared purpose, there is no competition, only cooperation, only the quiet rhythm of people working side by side for something that transcends them both. Sometimes, when I think about service, I think about the simplest moments, offering comfort where there is pain, hope where there is doubt, warmth where there is distance. These gestures may seem small, but they are the true foundation of any greater purpose. Because if we cannot serve one another in the everyday, if we cannot see the humanity in the smallest acts, then the grandest missions lose their meaning. True service must always begin with humility. To share purpose is also to share responsibility. It means being willing to learn, to listen, to grow alongside others. It means acknowledging that every person's contribution matters, no matter how visible or unseen it may be. I have learned that strength does not come from standing above others, but from standing with them, shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart, bound by the same belief that what we do together can shape a better tomorrow. The world often speaks in terms of success and recognition, but shared purpose teaches us something quieter and deeper, that the real measure of impact lies not in applause, but in continuity. It lies in knowing that long after the spotlight fades, the work continues. That those who come after us will find the path a little clearer, the journey a little kinder. Because of what we built together, there is a sacredness in service when it is done with love. It becomes more than a role. It becomes a reflection of who we are and what we hope to bring into the world. I have seen that the smallest gestures can carry the most weight, a conversation that restores confidence, a visit that brings comfort, a promise that reminds someone they are not forgotten. When such acts are multiplied across a nation, they become the heartbeat of unity. Every generation inherits not only the privileges of its history but the responsibilities of its future. To share purpose is to recognize that inheritance as a trust, to hold it carefully, to strengthen it, to pass it forward. And in doing so, we serve not only those we see today, but those we will never meet. We build for them a world that honors the same values that shaped us: respect, compassion, perseverance, and hope. Service is not meant to separate us from the people. It is meant to connect us to them. To listen to the stories that move through every home. To understand the silent challenges that so many face. To ensure that no one feels invisible. There is dignity in serving others, not because it raises us higher, but because it grounds us in the truth of what it means to belong to one another. In moments of reflection, I often think of how different our world could be if each of us saw service not as an obligation, but as an expression of gratitude. Gratitude for the opportunities we've been given, for the people who believe in us, for the chance to contribute something meaningful to the lives of others. When gratitude shapes our purpose, service ceases to be a task. It becomes a way of living. I have learned that shared purpose is not a destination we reach. It is a journey we walk each day. It demands patience, understanding, and faith in progress even when it feels slow. But there is something profoundly reassuring in that pace. Because every act of service, no matter how small, adds light to the path for those who follow. And that light, once shared, multiplies endlessly. There will be challenges, of course. There will be times when the weight of responsibility feels heavy, when the distance between ideals and reality seems wide. But in those moments we must remember why we began. To contribute to something enduring, something that unites rather than divides. To keep moving forward, even when the path feels uncertain, is also an act of service. It shows others that purpose is not about perfection, but about persistence. As I look to the years ahead, I hold close the belief that our greatest strength lies in our ability to walk together. Each voice, each hand, each heart adds to the collective purpose that defines us. And though the tasks before us may change, the spirit with which we approach them must remain the same, steady, humble, and sincere. When we serve with others, we become more than ourselves. We become part of a shared rhythm that has always defined the best of who we are. It is a rhythm that hums quietly beneath every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every effort made in the name of something greater. And though time may move on, that rhythm endures, echoing in the lives we touch and in the future we help build. To share purpose is to understand that our stories are intertwined. It is to see beyond our own reflection and recognize the collective light of those who walk beside us. It is to realize that service is not a burden, but a gift, one that allows us to give meaning to our own lives by enriching the lives of others. And so, I choose to serve not because I must, but because I believe. I believe in the quiet strength of unity, in the power of compassion, in the enduring beauty of shared purpose. I believe that no act of service, however small, is ever lost. It becomes part of a larger whole, a living legacy of care, woven from countless hearts, that will continue long after we are gone. Because in the end, the greatest honor is not in being remembered for what we achieved, but in being part of what continues. That is the true gift of shared purpose. That is the essence of service that lasts. There is a moment, quiet and almost imperceptible, when you realize that life's meaning is found not in what you possess, but in what you give. It is a realization that dawns slowly, as you begin to understand that everything you do, every effort, every gesture, every word, can carry within it a trace of care, a reflection of something greater than yourself. Service, I have come to see, is not a duty that begins when you are called. It is a way of being that lives quietly within the heart. It is in the faces of people you meet, in the hands that reach out, in the voices that tell you their stories. It is in listening, in seeing, in caring even when no one asks you to. And when that understanding takes root, it changes how you move through the world. You no longer act for recognition or praise. You act because something within you insists that every small kindness has a purpose, that every thoughtful act carries weight. The path of service is not one of perfection, it is one of intention. It asks of you to be present, to be sincere, to remain open even when the world feels uncertain. It is a path that does not always promise comfort, but it does promise meaning, and that meaning grows when it is shared. To walk in service is to walk together, with those who guide you, those who teach you, and those whose lives you hope to touch in return. There is something deeply human about shared purpose. It reminds us that we are not isolated fragments of a greater whole. We are the whole itself, living through one another. Our experiences are woven together like threads in a tapestry, different in color and texture, yet bound by the same fabric of hope. And when we recognize that, when we begin to serve not only with our minds, but with our hearts, we begin to understand what it truly means to belong. I have seen how service transforms both the giver and the receiver. It humbles, because it reveals how interconnected we truly are. It strengthens, because it reminds us that goodness is not a rare quality, but a choice, one we can make each day, in ways large and small. It builds bridges where once there were walls, and it teaches us that leadership is not the privilege of standing above others, but the responsibility of standing with them. When I think of shared purpose, I think of how it grows through trust. Trust that others will also do their part. Trust that what we build together will endure. Trust that kindness, even when unseen, has the power to change something quietly but profoundly. And in that trust there is peace. It does not mean that the road will always be easy, but it means we will never have to walk it alone. To serve others is also to serve time, to honor those who came before us by continuing their work, and to prepare the way for those who will follow. It is an invisible chain that stretches across generations, linking the past and the future through the actions of the present. And every time we act with integrity and compassion, we strengthen that chain, ensuring that it will hold. Sometimes service means listening when it would be easier to speak. Sometimes it means standing still when others rush forward. It asks for patience, because not all change happens quickly. It asks for faith, because not all progress is visible. And yet, even in its quietness, it moves mountains, one heart at a time, one moment at a time. What gives purpose its strength is not how much it shines, but how deeply it roots. The work that lasts is not always the work that is seen. Often it is the work done in silence, the kind that touches lives without needing credit. There is beauty in that invisibility, a quiet nobility in knowing that what you do might never be spoken of, yet still matters more than you can imagine. Shared purpose thrives when it is grounded in humility. When you serve, you learn to look beyond yourself, to see others not as distant or different, but as reflections of your own humanity. You begin to understand that empathy is not weakness, it is wisdom. That compassion is not merely kindness, it is courage, because it takes courage to care, to extend yourself beyond comfort, to invest in something that might not bear fruit for years, but will still nourish those who come after. In moments of doubt, when challenges appear larger than hope, it is shared purpose that steadies us. It whispers that what we do together can outlast fear, that unity born of sincerity cannot be undone by uncertainty. It reminds us that no act of goodness is ever wasted, no matter how small it may seem. I have often thought that service is like tending a garden. You may not always see the blossoms immediately. There are seasons of growth and seasons of waiting, but with care, patience, and faith, what you plant will one day bloom, not only for you, but for others. And perhaps that is the most enduring reward of service. To know that what you began will continue beyond your own time. There is an elegance in collective effort, in knowing that your hand is one among many, each contributing something essential to the whole. It teaches you to value every role, every contribution, every person who works quietly behind the scenes. Because purpose, when shared, becomes stronger, it cannot break easily, for it is held together by many hearts. When I look ahead, I feel both responsibility and gratitude. responsibility to serve with sincerity, and gratitude for being surrounded by those who do the same. I see in them the living proof that goodness is not an ideal but a practice, one renewed each day by the choices we make. And I am reminded that shared purpose does not only change the world, it refines the soul. To serve is to honor life itself, to give without expecting, to work without seeking reward, to build knowing that others will stand upon what you have made. It is, in the truest sense, an act of love, and love, when expressed through service, becomes infinite. It moves through generations, through hearts, through time itself, leaving behind a legacy far greater than any name or title could ever hold. In the quiet of the evening, when reflection softens the day, I think often of what it means to live with purpose. It is not about being seen, it is about seeing. Not about being followed, it is about following what is right. It is not about how far we go alone, but how deeply we go together. That, to me, is the essence of service, a promise to walk side by side, guided by compassion, strengthened by unity, and renewed by faith in the goodness of others. And when the journey feels long, when the tasks before us seem endless, I find peace in remembering this simple truth: we are here to serve, and in serving, we become whole. Because the heart that gives freely is never empty. It is constantly renewed by the very act of giving. That is where purpose finds its home, not in glory, not in applause, but in the quiet knowledge that we have done what we could, that we have cared deeply, that we have shared in something greater than ourselves. And that, in the end, is what makes a life meaningful.